Hi, I'm Scott Usher. I'm the creative director at Haven Light Publishing. This is Haven Light's Artist Spotlight, and I am here with artist Liz Lemon Swindle, the Liz Lemon Swindle. Liz, welcome to the studio.
Thanks, Scott. Glad to be here.
Excellent. So we're here today to talk about the fact that you are the official artist for The Chosen. That's pretty cool, considering the fact that The Chosen is probably the biggest phenomena in Christian, call it Christian entertainment, in our lifetime.
Yeah, it's a sweet gig.
It's a sweet gig. Yes, it is. The gig includes the ability to go on set, meet the actors. What is the gig?
The biggest advantage it has for me is that it has infused my own career. So I'm reaching the point of retirement and Chosen comes along. It just puts everything back in that I felt at the first of my career, and just excitement and excited to tell the Savior's story and be part of something that's so heart-driven. It's really quite amazing to be with these people. It's not just Dallas on the set; it's everybody. This is the neatest experience. I wish everybody that knows of The Chosen could actually be on the set one day, and they would have even a greater respect and love for it.
The Chosen doesn't choose lightly.
Oh, no.
Getting to work with The Chosen is a process.
Yeah.
And conversely, once you're under the tent, the loyalty is really high. They're not interested in working with 20. They're interested in working with Liz Lemon Swindle, and that's it.
But it's a mutual respect.
Yeah.
Like when you work that hard to get your nose under the tent, you're not about to make any problems to have them push it out. But you also find that once you're in there, you have a great respect for what's happening, what's being produced. And to even be part of that, even in the tiniest way, you're so grateful.
So you've been able to have a really cool and unique relationship, meeting Dallas, but also meeting people like Jonathan, Matthias, who plays Matthew. You've met a lot of the actors from the time you spent on set, or having them come to your studio.
Yeah, I have, and that's always, speaking as an artist, that it's always good to know the people you're working with, because that gets infused into the painting. Mm-hmm. You know, regardless of the character that you're creating there, still, there's part of that person playing the character that you can't separate. So when you paint Jonathan Rumi, no, he's not Jesus, but he lives a life that is so acceptable by the Savior that it's really easy to just put him on canvas, because you're not that far off. I mean, he's a kind man, he's honest, he's just everything that you would want for someone that plays this character. And so it's such a privilege to be able to have that experience. And doing Paris, who plays Matthew.
Paris, not Matthias,
I'm actually doing a painting of him right now. I just barely started. And what I wanted to do wasn't a scene so much as I wanted to capture the little tics, the little idiosyncrasies that he does as someone that is on the spectrum. And so it's got about 10 different pieces that I'm putting into this, but it's so Matthew and it's so Paris. Paris he's not on the spectrum, but he's so convincing. And again, I haven't met any of these guys that aren't just so incredibly kind and generous, and you don't get any of divas. It just isn't anything there like that. Yeah.
It's a really interesting group of folks who come together.
I think the dynamics are really rare for this industry.
Yeah. People will have seen, we'll talk a little about a couple pieces that people have seen, then talk about one or two about pieces they haven't.
Okay.
So The Chosen has decided they want to work with you. They want to do something in art reproduction that they can be offering out to the audience.
Right.
And this artwork, much for how Chosen has funded itself, both the original artwork and the prints, are helping to fund the actual production of The Chosen. Right. It's not just something that's retailing and happening out there. This is all part of the crowdsourced funding that The Chosen does.
This, what I do is my way of contributing.
Yeah.
You know, it's not because I don't get paid like I get paid as an artist. That's not possible, and I wouldn't do that. But it is it's an offering.
Normally, if you buy a Star Wars thing, your Star Wars is getting 10% of whatever it's sold for, and thank you very much.
Right, right.
But there's a, you know, whether it be half, whether it be 60, there's a large percentage of everything that's being sold, especially when you buy it directly from The Chosen, that is going
And the
right
money
in The
needs
Chosen
to go
coffers.
to The Chosen.
Yeah.
It's not a. They're not out there getting rich on this. They're trying to produce this phenomenal production for the world.
And it ain't cheap.
It's not cheap.
Yep. So again, we'll go back to like the first piece we did. So you talked about the moment that really seized you. I am hooked. I'm going into that is You Are Mine.
That is You Are Mine. It was. I think it really encompasses the entire production of Chosen. That whole scene of the Savior taking us in His arms, and bringing us home. That is what The Chosen is. I think that's what it's all about. To introduce a Jesus that you can look at and go, I could like him. I like that kind of Jesus. So many people from my generation, I can't speak, and for my kids too, I think we came up in a time when there was a little bit of fear and hesitation with the Savior. That's not a converted heart. That's just fear driving that. And our family Bible had pictures of Jesus mad. He was so pissed off at me for whatever I was going to do that it was hard for me to connect as a human being in my mortal experience with this person, this God. And so it was always a bit of a struggle for me, and always a bit of a, I don't know. It was definitely a dichotomy because I couldn't get fully on board with it. I mean, I wasn't a person that was rebellious by nature, but I don't like being pushed into something. That's how I always felt it was. But with Chosen, the remarkable thing that Dallas has been successful with, and no one else has done this, is he introduced a Jesus that we love. That we don't go, well, he's this way, or he does that, or he wears those short skirts. We didn't do that. There were no conversations like that. It was, I want Jesus to be like that. That's a Jesus that I could love.
We're definitely meeting a more complicated Jesus as we get into season 4 and things
season
like
5
that.
Even more.
Yeah. So there's going to be a lot of progression, but there's nothing. You know, again, what's the one thing that I've heard from most people who look at this image is, I wish I could be held by Jesus like that.
To just have that experience and just that total submission.
Yeah.
Wow, isn't that what we all want?
And that's one of the great things I think you did in this particular painting. There's a body language. If you have a couple of models just sitting there, and you know, you just don't get that feeling. But Mary is 100% given, and you can just see it in the arch of her back.
She's a beautiful actress in terms of her skills.
Yeah,
her body language is so easy to read.
Yeah,
and it really translates onto the footage that I get, you know, the raw footage that I do these from. And it's hard with these guys to go through and pick the one frame that you're going to use. It always ends up being more than just one frame.
Yeah.
Just because there's so many things that are going on with each frame. Even the slight movement of a hand, you know, changes the entire motion of it. And so there, that piece is one that it was a really good one for me to start out with because I was so connected to it.
And it's done well for The Chosen as well, which is one of the neatest things.
Chosen.
And that original ended up with The Chosen.
Yeah, they kept that. In fact, I was just down in Texas. The original's not there, but there is a big replication of it in the office, not Dallas's office, just outside of it where they do the recording.
Yeah.
I saw it. And that really is, that's very satisfying to know that it hit them in that way.
Yeah.
You know? He produced this. I mean, he's the guy sitting there yelling, cut. You know, we're going to do it again. Yep. He must have done this scene, I don't know how many times, but to have him see this and see it as a painting, you know, and separate from the film, it doesn't get better than that.
And Dallas, for for a good number of the paintings, he'll help actually title it. And then he also provides a verse that you paint into one of the corners so that people know where the painting's coming
Right,
from.
and he is very absolute about what he likes. You know, I can do an absolutely beautiful painting that I think would be phenomenal, you know, to put out there. And if it doesn't resonate, it doesn't go anywhere.
Yep.
So it you know, and that has been the case many times. The painting really has to hit a nerve with Dallas for it to make the public.
Yep. So out of, you have 14 paintings, probably a gazillion sketches, if you really count the sketchy stuff you've done on set, which is really awesome. Hopefully one day people get to see this stuff. You know, you've done quite, and one of the ones that he's chosen not to do yet, but I think is one of the most powerful paintings that you've done, is the Nicodemus piece. And quickly talk about, and if you don't say the thing that I'm looking for, I'm going to bring it up.
Nicodemus, watching The Chosen, the actor that plays Nicodemus, Vardy, what's his first name? Eric Vardy.
Yep.
Anyway, I'd seen him on other things. I saw him on NCIS. He was an agent or something.
Probably the biggest known actor that was in the first season. Yeah.
And that actually was another kind of click that kept me there. You know, this wasn't just some little production. I mean, they were bringing in some big people. Anyway, and I've always enjoyed his acting. So for him to play Nicodemus, when he showed up as that, I thought, oh, he's perfect for that. Yeah. That's how I picture Nicodemus, just like that. Same age, same look, the whole thing. Anyway, and so he's such a seasoned actor that it takes very little for him to get the emotion out there. But he doesn't hold back, and that's the other thing that's so amazing. So when the Savior calls him to follow him, you know, he's a Pharisee. He's at the highest courts of the Sanhedrin, and the Savior's asking him to just leave all that and come with me. It isn't just what he's done in his career. It's a family that lives this. It's his wife. They all have status. For him to follow the Savior, it would be a ruin for that family. And so he's torn. I've thought so many times when I was painting this, you know, the Savior calls me every day to follow him.
Every day, everybody gets something.
Exactly. Yeah. But he's not asking me to leave my family, you know, and go make Cheetos somewhere. It just isn't like that. And yet in that time where it was being established, they were being asked to do this very big sacrifice. And so a lot of people go, why didn't he follow him? Why couldn't he just go? Not that easy. It couldn't have been that easy. And the Savior knew that. Yep. And when they meet at the court, they're ready to leave that morning. The Savior is waiting and hoping, although I'm sure he knows, that Nicodemus doesn't join them. Yep. And I think he says in the film, "You came so close." Yeah. And he's so disappointed, and that look on his face and the tears in his eyes, that just is so gripping. But what you see as the camera pans out, there's Nicodemus behind the pillar where they can't see him, and he is racked. Yep. With the sorrow and the betrayal of that. It just, I don't know how many times painting that I just sat and cried. Just feeling what he felt. I
remember as you were painting that, and, you know, my thing is, golly, I've been in the art business for a long time. People don't want a painting of somebody crying, Liz. And you're like, no, this is different. And I'll say, wow, I completely agree, especially when you sit there and say, man, I have that out there for me because it's a reminder on a daily basis that, like I say, you're given choices. Yeah. And are you going to regret those choices that you make? Yeah. Are you going to embrace those choices that you make?
Here's the path that's going to bring you joy, and here's the one that'll bring you the sorrow. Which path are you going to take? Even though this seems like a much easier path. Yep. That's exactly what it does for me. It's a reminder. So to me, I look at it and think, yeah, it's sorrowful, but that's the most beautiful piece of happiness for me, because that reminds me, don't go there. Keep going here. Yep. And that's really been it.
To an image then that people would see. Now we're back into season 3, end of season 3. Don't Let Me Go. And they kind of reached out and said, there's a very specific thing we want to have you painted.
This was one that Dallas wanted.
Yep.
and before I had started it. And I had done one where you actually saw the Savior from underneath the water, so it was very disjointed, but you could see that it was the Savior and the hands coming into the water, which I thought was really a powerful piece and the best way to do this. But I wasn't there when he filmed it, and he was specific about this frame, that it be Simon's hand and Jesus's hand, and so that was. It's a bit of a challenge just because when you have something that dark and it's moving, your resource material is really a challenge.
Dark, and it's underwater, and you know.
And so I really had to. I can't tell you. I actually went and bought like a fish tank, stick my hand in so I could see.
See how light
just
hits
to
the
see
arm
how
underwater.
It hits.
Yeah.
And what you do, you have to make do with a lot of things to understand what's going on. But again, that whole, just the Savior, just always there. He's always there. He's always there with his hand outstretched.
One of the great things that your painting captures that you don't get to see, it happens quickly in the film.
Yeah.
It's here and it's gone.
Yeah.
And the great thing about your painting is, here is this, look at the strength.
This is that moment.
This is, bang, I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think this is one that really resonated with Dallas. He loved that I put the cross in the reflection of the water on the wrist of the Savior. And I didn't know if he was going to catch it, but he caught it right off. So that meant a lot to him.
Which says he probably set up those other scenes as well, because he's picking all that stuff up. Like I say, I don't think there's a lot of accidents.
I don't think there's a lot of accidents. This is a project that has brought so many beliefs and ideology or religions together and denominations together, and it's working. Yeah. This has been unsuccessful in every age. Yeah. And now you go on set. I sat there one day on set. We were in Solomon's Court, and I'm going, I know he's this religion, he's that religion. I think I counted 15 different religions of these people, all friends, all working for one goal. It was really kind of amazing and wonderful.
There's another one of your pieces that's about to be released by The Chosen. Mm-hmm. It's a piece called Clean. Tell me about Clean.
I actually did this when I was doing The Savior within my own project. We actually filmed this, and it was of the woman with the issue of blood, and she reaches out because of her faith to just touch the hem of the Savior. What I didn't realize when I did it for my resources, I took that hem as literal. Mm-hmm. When he's talking about the hem, he's talking about those prayer beads that hang on those tunics, the prayer shawls. And so that was kind of a great thing when I saw that, and in slow motion, how she reaches for those beads on the Savior's tunic, and just them flipping around, and her with her hand out. Again, you've got this one. You've got that one. You've got the same theme, which continues to resonate through this whole project, of just the Savior is there. When she touched him, he felt it come out of him. So he stopped. Yeah. He was moving in a crowd. He felt it. Ask who it was, and I think the apostles were kind of, what do you mean? There's a million people around here.
And think about how many times he was touched other times, and no, it didn't happen.
But
this
time woman was there with that faith, and that faith is powerful, and he felt it. And this is and it's one of my favorite pieces that I've been able to paint. It was actually done by a still photographer for Chosen, and it's who has just this incredible eye for photography, Mike. And it was he caught it. He caught that as they were filming it, and I thought, oh, this has to be documented. This has to be part of something more. This has to be something very tangible, and so I was able to do that one. And that
faces, no full bodies.
Faces,
it's just all about that.
It's just the emotions. You don't have to have the faces. All you have to see is the yearning, and that's what it does.
Did you add the red blanket?
I did.
Yeah,
I did. I think, was it Steve? Somebody had mentioned something with the atonement. Don't forget the atonement in that. And I think, because the blanket that I actually photographed for it was green. But it didn't work with the colors that were there, and I put it red.
The
not
only magic
even
is in the
thinking
movies.
Atonement. So for me, it was a happy accident.
Yeah, yeah.
But I imagine Dallas would have put a red blanket in there, fully aware that it was
Yeah.
symbolism of the atonement.
There's another piece that you did in conjunction with Clean called My Daughter.
Oh yeah, it's the Savior as he. What is her name in the film? The woman with the issue of blood. Anyway, the Savior is just the Savior comes where you are. You know, I love that thought that wherever you're at in life, that's where the Savior will meet you. And she was being called out having touched the hem of his garment. He wasn't chastising her. He really wanted her to come forward. He already knew who it was, I'm sure. But she comes forward, that courage that accompanies that faith. She came forward and she, you know, it was me. And and the Savior kneels down to her level where she is and puts his hands on her cheeks, you know, and just that whole moment of her with the melt, you know, where, and she was healed. She was healed at that point. She was healed when she touched him.
Yeah.
But here she was, and the Savior recognizing that. But more than that, which is what all women want, is that he recognized, I think he said to her, you must be exhausted for 12 years. And I thought, what an incredible thing to say. You know, when you read the scriptures,
you must be
sometimes,
exhausted. Yeah.
You just read the scriptures and you don't really extrapolate much out of that, you know, unless you really have a mindset to do that. But not Dallas, you know. Yeah. Here's this, you must be exhausted. And just for the Savior to recognize that in that woman, she needed to hear that.
Yeah.
You know? So that whole moment is just him embracing her, you know, just I think within seconds of where he says that to her, I thought was, wow, I had to paint it. And she was such a great model. Her whole, wow, the expressions on her face, just, wow, and beautiful to paint. She was wonderful.
So you can see just about everything that you have created for The Chosen on as an original, or the sketches or the prints on LizLemonSwindle.com and HavenLight.com. That original sketch is already with somebody, but that beautiful piece of Jonathan you did called Rise Up. Of all the paintings that you've done, you come out with these black and white sketches that I'm just going to sit there and say, that is so done. I don't know how a painting can be more done or completed better than that.
I was so lucky too, because I love to sketch in church. I always have. I mean, when I had kids, it was a little different. I had to paint rabbits and dogs, or draw. But as a kid, as a teenager, now I just sketch. That's where I go. And this was one that was taken from that particular clip with the woman with the issue of blood. And I think it's as she's touched his robe, what you see is the face of Christ with that moment, and just so emotional. And I wasn't sure how it would translate to the black and white sketch, but when I finished it, I said, I have to give this to my family. Yeah. You know, there has to be something that when I create it, I can keep for my family. It doesn't all go to the world. And so we called Chosen, and I guess Dallas, Brad, whoever gave the go, allowed us to make enough prints that I could give them to my family for Christmas. And so that's not for the public. That won't go out.
Yep. But people can get, so I've seen your list, you know, of all the scenes you want to paint. Yeah. And people can reach out to us and say, hey, I'd like to get in line for one of those pieces that Liz is doing. Or I have an idea, you know, this scene means a lot to me. So the ability to go out there and have somebody commission something exists.
Well, yeah.
So long as it's in the scope of what it is that you're looking to do.
It has to be something that's going to resonate with me. Yeah. Otherwise, I'll just sit and stare at the canvas. I won't be able to create it.
But the list of what you want to create, to me, is pretty...
Well, and I still got all these from 1 through 3 seasons, and now I've got 4 on my tails. And
you have a good idea what's coming out in 5.
I know exactly what's coming out in 5, and that's a tough one. So... yeah, the sooner that you do that, you know, because it's going to take, years for me to complete this. Even after Chosen is done, I'll still be painting.
Yeah.
And so I'll probably go back into season 1 through 3 then, excuse me. It's because I think one thing that people don't realize is that I'm actually doing the originals. It kind of is word of mouth at this point.
Yeah. One, it's supporting The Chosen.
Mm-hmm.
Two, you're the only authorized person working with The Chosen. Everyone else, it's great that all these people are creating it, but this is helping to fund what The Chosen is doing. And, couldn't be better than that. Plus, it's a Liz Lemon Swindle. And quite frankly, that ain't bad either. It's a quality work of artwork.
Thank you.
So I'm going to say, thanks for coming today. We could talk for the next 5 hours about this.
But I gotta go paint.
And we will, and we'll do more. But I want to say thanks so much for coming into the studio today and being with me. And we're going to have you again, and we'll go a little deeper into a couple more of these pieces.
Thank you for having me. It's always fun to talk about this.
I'm Scott Usher. I'm the creative director for Havenlight, and this has been Havenlight Artist Spotlight with the Liz Lemon Swindle.